Good morning, my dear pupils. How are you today? So I hope you and your families are fine. And welcome to history class. Well, today we continue next with the Renaissance art. This is going to be the last chapter dedicated to the art in the modern ages. Yes, we have been studying the Quattrocento and Cinquecento art in pictures, sculptures, architecture in Italy, and we are going to see next what happens out of Italy. We're going to study in this video the spread of the Renaissance art in other countries, in Spain and in the northern countries in Germany. So, first we're going to start with the Renaissance art in Spain. You remembered that the origin of the Renaissance art was in Italy, yes? Next. Because Renaissance art is focused or tries to rebirth the ideas from the ancient Greek and the ancient Rome. And in Italy, they had in their streets the triumphal arches, they had the Colosseum, they had the Pantheon, they had the sculptures, the ancient Roman sculptures that copied the Greek sculptures in the streets. Yes, but what happens in other countries? What happens in Spain in the 1400, 15th century, and in the 1500, 16th century? Next. So, in the 1400, do you remember what was happening on the Iberian Peninsula? We were experiencing the Reconquest process. It was not till 1492 that the Catholic monarch, you remember them, conquered the Nasrid kingdom of Granada, expelling the Muslims. So, on the Iberian Peninsula, during the Quattrocento, during the 15th century, the Muslim art was still very important, yes, and also the Mudéjar art. Mudéjar, you remember the Mudéjars were those Muslims that remain living in the Christian territory, maintaining their religion, so they continue being Muslims, and they are going to create. Maybe you remember a video we saw in class. They create buildings or art with the Muslim decoration and the Muslim ideas, but for a Christian purpose, or they create churches, Christian churches, with the Muslim decoration, or with, yes. So this art is going to be present on the Iberian Peninsula, and in the 16th century, this Mudéjar style, Christian churches created with the decoration, the geometrical patterns, the floral motifs, yes, the stars. You remember all this Muslim decoration, but for Christian purposes, so in churches, for example. Yes, and on the Iberian Peninsula, in the Quattrocento, and also later in, so that's 15th until the 16th century, the Gothic art was very important. The Gothic style was the symbol of the Christianity, yes, you remember, in the High Middle Ages, and it lasted on the Iberian Peninsula for a large period of time, yes. So Gothic art and the Muslim decoration for the Christian buildings are going to be still very, very, very important on the Iberian Peninsula. That makes that the influences coming from Italy came to our territory quite late and not exactly in. We're not going to assume or to develop the Renaissance art like the Italians. No, Spain is different. Yes, we are much more Gothic, much more religious. Yes, under the government of the Catholic monarch, and the Gothic style it's going to be still very, very, very important till the 16th century. Yes, till the 1500, whatever. Next. So, the style, the Gothic style, it's going to be still very, very important on the Iberian Peninsula. But the new fashion coming from Italy, it's also going to be import brought by the artists that travel to Italy, or the ways that the Renaissance and the humanistic ideas used to spread the humanism and the modern age new ideas. Yes, you remember the printing press. So many Spanish artists, they can read and study the books that the Italian artists write, explaining all the characteristics of the Renaissance art we have been studying in these videos. Yes. So they create the Italians. They create books with patterns, with decoration motifs that the Spanish sculptors, painters, architects are going to copy. But the majority of them are not going to visit Italy, so they are going to imitate or to learn what they read in the Italian books. Yes, so the Renaissance in Spain, it's going to be a little bit different, yes? So we learn the Renaissance art from the Italian artist, yes. And, well, next. Well, we're going to see, you can follow it in the book. I'm not going to get very deep in this point. I just want to offer you an overview, yes? So we're going to study 3 different styles in the Spanish Renaissance art. We're going to study the Plateresque style, the Classicist style, and the Herrerian, or a very pure style, the Herrerian style. So these 3 styles, yes? And we're going to start for the architecture with the Plateresque style. I'm not going to get very deep on it. I only want you to see some pictures and to understand the main ideas. You learned a lot about the Italian Renaissance art, and that's enough. Yes, so here only I want you to see some pictures so that you can get an idea about it. Okay, if you follow what is written in the book, on page 128, it says about the Plateresque style. Abundant decoration developed in the early 16th century. So, that is what you need to remember from the Plateresque style. Decoration. It's plenty of decoration. The conception of the buildings is still a Gothic conception, yes? So the buildings can be made in a Gothic style, but the architects, they make a lot of decoration elements taken from the Renaissance art. So the artists, the architects, they read books, they see in the Italian books the designs they use, and, well, they do not know exactly how to introduce all these decoration motifs in the architecture, so they put all the decoration motifs all together, making some kind of mixture that has actually not too much to do with the pure Renaissance art we have been studying, and you're going to see this next. Yes, in Salamanca, but also Burgos, Valladolid. They are going to use a lot this Plateresque style. This can look like a Gothic architecture, a Gothic art, church, or a Gothic whatever, but plenty of decoration with figures in circles, with shells. The shells are very typical decoration from the Renaissance art in Italy, like the shell where the Venus come. Yes? Well, next. That's the facade of the Salamanca's University. It looks like Gothic, quite Gothic, yes, with these pinnacles, yes, in the top part of the buttresses outside. You remember? Yeah. Well, but next, you see in this part the facade over the entrance. There's a lot of decoration. Next, decoration with I don't know if you can see it. There's a lot of the Italian motifs to decorate. Yes. Next, you see there the very famous scroll. Yes. Next. So all these motifs are put together, one close to the other, with not a very specific order. You know, the Italian art order, proportion, measure, yes, the canon, but in the Plateresque, no. All the Italian decoration motifs all put together without any order. That's Italian, that's Renaissance. Yes, the architects put all these motifs all together in the facade, decorating everything. Next, here in a circle shape, we see the portraits of the Catholic monarch. Remember, in the 15th century, the Catholic monarchs were governing the Iberian Peninsula. Next. An example from Zaragoza, you see the Santa Engracia Church. It looks like a Roman triumphal arch, so the semicircular arches. That's clear that that's not a Gothic style. But strange, yes, because neither it is Romanesque, even if there's a semicircular arch. What can it be? Plateresque. Plenty of decoration with the classic columns when these circle shapes with sculptures inside or with portraits inside. Also religious motifs decorating everything. Well, that's enough. Next. Okay, then we go ahead with the second style. Yes, the classicist style. Well, it looks more Italian. It's not going to be the mixture of the Gothic style plus a lot of Renaissance decoration. No, classicist. Yes, we're going to see in this type of style that the classic structures of the Renaissance are going to appear now in this moment. In the book, it says, page 128, in the classicist style, the harmony of a building was more important than its decoration. So, in the classicist style, it's not going to be everything covered with this decoration. No. Next. All the characteristics of the Renaissance art can be found here now. You remember the harmony, the mathematics, the symmetry. What do you see there? That's the Charles V palace in La Alhambra in Granada. Yes? What can you distinguish there here? Very clear. The preferred shapes for the Italian Renaissance artist. Yes, the central plans. The square outside, that's the plan of the palace, and inside you see the circle. Well, that's not a dome, but that's a courtyard inside. Next. This is from outside. We did not study the Italian palace, Renaissance palace, but that's a perfect copy of any of them. You see the circle shapes, the triangle pediments, the classic columns. In the main entrance, it looks like a Roman arch. Yes. Well, we did not study the palace in the Renaissance art, but the palace were in Spain, they were very similar to the Italian ones. In Zaragoza, we've got a lot of Renaissance palaces from the 16th century, because Zaragoza was a very, very rich city in the 16th century. Indeed, Zaragoza was called Zaragoza la Jarta. La Jarta in Spanish, yes. Jarta meaning rich, wealthy. So in Zaragoza we've got el Palacio de Sástago, el Palacio de Montemuzo, a lot of palaces that belong to the 16th century that are Renaissance palaces and look similar to this one from Carlos V. El Emperador Carlos V, yes, you know him, we will study him next. Next, you see here the facade, the circles with the sculptures inside, the triangle pediment, the use of the classic columns, yes, so imitating the ancient Greek and Roman style somehow. Next. And this is in the inner part, the courtyard. You see the circle, yeah, how they use the perfect shapes for the Greeks and for the Romans, and now in the Renaissance. So that's the classicist style, yes. Next, the use of the columns, yes, you see the classic columns imitating the Greeks and the Romans. Next, here are the scrolls, yes, so in the capital with the scrolls, that's Ionic style. Next. Okay, and then we go ahead with the third style. We saw the Plateresque, the Classicist, and now we go ahead with the Herrerian style. Herrerian. Well, what says about the Herrerian style on the book? Page 128. So, the Herrerian style became influential in the second half of the 16th century, yes? Buildings were characterized by their sobriety and almost total lack of decoration. That is, the lack of decoration. So, no, very little decoration, like in the classicist style, but no decoration at all. No decoration. The only one decoration we're going to find are going to be the structures. So the columns or the building itself. So total sobriety. Sobriedad means no decoration. Yes. So we're going to see the classic style in its total purity. So more than pure. It's we're going to see that they are based in the perfect geometrical shape. So their buildings are cubes, yes, but no decoration at all. Based in the ancient Greek and Roman style, but even more pure and very, so there's an extreme sobriety. Yes? So lack of decoration. Next. Yes, this is one of the most important examples we've got. That's very close to Madrid, yeah, El Escorial, the monastery of San Lorenzo del Escorial. Yes? What can you see in the plan of the building? What was one of the favorite shapes for the Renaissance artist? Apart from the circle, the square, and you see this plan is based in the square. So we see a central corridor with a church. It's a monastery. Yes, it has got a church with okay, doesn't matter. And the main shape is the square. Four squares that create a bigger square, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 squares, then a Christian church with a square plan with a hemispherical dome. Yes, and well, over the main entrance there's a library. So you remember the humanistic concept, the seek for the wisdom. Yes, they try to study everything under curiosity. So this building was created by Felipe II, Felipe II, yes, el segundo, no, Felipe II, and he was a very wise man. Yes. So proportions, symmetry, mathematics, that's the concept of beauty. Next. Here you've got it in 17th century gravure. Next. That's a general overview. Next. Also we see Herrerian style. Herrerian style, it's because Juan de Herrera designed the monastery. It was a monastery, but with also the monarch lived here. Next. You see here very clear that there's no decoration at all. The only one decoration are the windows that create a very harmonic rhythm. Yes, all these squares that repeat and create this kind of rhythm. But it looks like a block of cubes, and the towers look like a double cube, one over the other. So no decoration at all. Very solid, very so there's an extreme sobriety. Next. Here you see no decoration, no triangle pediments over the windows. Nothing, sobriety, purity, pureness, total pureness, only the perfect shapes. The mathematical harmony, it's the only one decoration. They need no decoration. Next. Well, here you see again the tower, the columns. Next. Well, till here architecture, and now we're going to see a very quick look, a very quick overview about the sculptures. Yes. Well, the Renaissance sculpture, you see, also focused in the 16th century because the Italian influence came very late to the Spanish territories. Yes, and the Catholic monarch, Catholic, very religious, defending the Christian Catholic religion. Yes, so for the painters and also for the sculptures, they are not going to try to represent the ideal beauty in their creations. For them, what is much more important is the religious feeling, trying to awake and trying to move people, trying to impact, trying to move or to create religious emotions, religious feelings, and that was the most important. Yes, of course they are going to focus in the ideal beauty, and they are going to show the anatomy, and they are going to try to be naturalistic and realistic and express this mathematical concept of beauty. But there's not going to be the serenity or from the Quattrocento or Cinquecento in Italy. No. Next. Okay, here you see the characteristics. So religious sculptures, because we are in Spain, we are under the Catholic monarch government, yes, and the expression of the feelings, the religious feelings, trying to move these religious feelings in the people that see these sculptures. Next. You see here Alonso de Berruguete. He was one of the most important. You see that's how they try to express the emotions, the feelings. It has nothing to do with the Gothic style. Well, maybe the figures are a little bit large, yes, and that's something like Gothic, yes, but they try to express the ideal beauty, the study of the anatomy, yes, the interest in the human beings, the influence of the ancient Greek and Roman sculptures, yes, but everything is, or the most important, is the expression of the emotions, religious emotions, trying to move the heart of the Catholic people. Next. Well, you see here the Isaac sacrifice. In Spain, we use the wood, painted and colored wood, as the main material to create the sculptures. The interest in that, in the anatomy, the proportions, the canon, but that's not the most important. So we're going to continue focus on religious sculptures next. That's Juan de Juni, another sculpture. You see the expression, the pain expression in the face of Jesus Christ. But you can also, if you compare this with the Pietà of Michelangelo, Il Divino, the Divine, you see that the anatomy, the proportions, that's not the most important for the Spanish sculptures. The expression of emotions, it's much more important. Making people see the hand, yes, with the blood. And that's going to be much more important in the 18th century. That's going to be super important. So, okay, next. Well, paintings in the Renaissance art on the Iberian Peninsula. Yes, we must talk about El Greco. El Greco, it's not his name, his real name. El Greco, it's like a nickname because he comes from Greek. He was born in the island of Crete, yes, you see, in the mid-16th century, yes, in the middle of the Cinquecento, so quite late. And I don't know if you remember that when talking about the Italian art, we talk about the Quattrocento, Cinquecento, and Manierism. Yes, Manierism means, one moment. Manierism meant alla maniera, alla sua maniera. So El Greco, it's going to paint, it's going to make their pictures alla sua maniera. So he's not going to be properly maintaining the proportions or maintaining. So I need to connect my computer to the net because I'm without battery. So, sorry for the noise. Well, then Domenico Theotokopoulos, yes, El Greco. Next, we're going to see that he uses the color in his own way, not maintaining the colors that are supposed to be the colors of the things that he represents, but expressing or using the colors he preferred. Yes, so that's something very, very new. It's going to represent things he's going to represent the motifs in very, not in soft colors. So in green colors, red color, yes, so not soft colors, yes. His figures are going to be quite large. Large to represent their spirituality, or that they are not so yes, to represent the spirituality, to represent, yes, so very stylized and large figures. And so he paints in his own way. He paints alla sua maniera. So we can talk about him when talking about mannerism, not so typical Renaissance. He does not respect the canon, the proportions of the figures. He makes it in his own way, alla sua maniera. Next. He paints religious paintings, the importance of the Christian Catholic religion on the Iberian Peninsula, yes. You see the colors, how they grabbed you, the green, the blue, the red, the yellow. Next. Here you see a lot of people. He's a master in the portraits. And you see the figures that are quite large. And something that it was not common in the Renaissance, or it was not very common in the art till this moment. The figure that it's closer to us, we cannot see its face. He's turned. Yes. Okay. Next. The Trinity. You see the figure of Jesus Christ in the center. We see the anatomy, but he's a very large figure, so it's a mystic representation, a very spiritual representation of the body. Yes, very large, larger than the normal size. And the colors are not serene colors. Next. He made a lot of portraits. Next. This one is very, very famous with the typical clothes in the 16th century, yes. So, very realistic, and he expressed the inner life or of the man. We can see a little bit about his psychology. Next. This one is very, very famous, El Entierro del Conde Orgaz. He lived in Toledo, and the picture is in Toledo, yes. So he represents in the lower part the burial, yes, of a count, and in the upper part, making a line of division with all these heads, the heaven, yes, the sacred reality, and not the different reality in the upper part, in the heaven. Next. Okay, you see there's like a gallery of portraits belonging to the most important people in Toledo in this moment. The quality of the clothes is also, wow, incredible, yes. Very realistic in the representation of the clothes, of the fabrics of the clothes. Next. Here you see the representation of the heaven with these yellow colors and not very quiet representation. Next. Next. The portraits of these very important people. So Next. That's enough about the Renaissance art on the Iberian Peninsula. And then now in Germany, I only want to introduce you one of the most important artists coming from out of Italy, coming from Germany. His name is Albert Dürer. Durero. Yeah, for the Spanish people, Durero. For the German, Dürer. Next. Yes, he's incredible, good in the design, in the draws. He's an incredible draftsman, but he is also a super good engraver. He makes gravures in wood, so very incredible high quality of gravures. Next, we can see here self-portrait of Dürer. He represents himself as a humanistic man, yes, like the very cultivated people, yes, a master in art, but also a wise man that knows about mathematics, about philosophy, about astronomy, about everything that can be studied. Yes, next. We see here a his detailed face, where everything is painted very, very accurately. We see the naturalism, the harmony of the proportions, the try to represent the nature as it really is, so very, very realistic. Yeah, like in the Renaissance in Italy. He was there and he studied the Italians. Next. And that's one of their gravures. The knight on the horse, you remember also the representation, the sculptures of the horse, Donatello, yes, and how they love copying the representation of the Roman sculptures with the horses, yes, well, okay, doesn't matter. So here we see a gravure that it's entitled The King, the Death, and the Demon. He uses a lot of symbols in his representations. If you have time and you're curious, look for information about their gravures. They are really incredible, made on wood, incredible. So he imitates reality, the proportions, he's incredible. So very, very realistic, very naturalistic. Well, okay, I don't want to get deeper on it. I think that's enough till here. And I hope you enjoy it. And, well, hear you the next day. Have a nice day, my dear pupils. And, well, hear you soon. Bye-bye.